It's me again, as always. Welcome to Café con Jacob. This is your host, Jacob Guardado, and I am happy that you are here again, joining me as we continue this journey in life as one does. This week's episode, or this episode, is called Letting Go. And I think we all have things to let go of, so we can let the good come in. So sit down, pour yourself a cup of coffee, or water, or tea, or whatever you fancy, and sit with me for a little bit. For it's Café con Jacob. Now that's delicious. Today's episode is sponsored by, well, I don't have a sponsor yet, but still, um, a lovely Pacific Blend coffee with a little bit of that pumpkin creamer in it. I can't tell you, I love fall. Oh, well, happy fall, everybody. I know it's October. It's spooky month. It's also the last few days of Hispanic Heritage Month. A lot of big things happening, and I'm excited. I'm excited more than anything. But today's episode, letting go, it's a big subject. It's not a subject I can be like, well, of course, I know everything about, when I really don't know everything about this. But this is more how I see it, how I view it, how I think it would be useful for someone who sees and views it, but also the lessons I've learned and the beauty of it all. Now, I do want to put a little asterisk. I am not a know-it-all when it comes to this. I forget the name. I'm not the most knowledgeable person about this, but if you can give me just some time of your day and we can enjoy this coffee cup, I know we'll come to some conclusion, right? Well, if you didn't know, this is Café con Jacob, and I love drinking coffee, and today's subject is one that's actually close to my heart. The idea of letting go, to me, deep down inside, is basically putting trust in God and in Jesus and in everything we do, but also allowing ourselves to not be defined by our past, not allowing ourselves to be defined by our, let's say, traumas or errors, mistakes, but also this also comes to not being anchored to past glories, something that I myself I used to do this, I used to do that, but I've turned it from I used to that I had the opportunity to do, and I lived it to the best of my ability, to the best of what I could do. Now, to get there, to get to this level of letting go, or this idea of making peace, it takes a lot of grace. Grace that sometimes we ourselves do not have. I can't tell you how many days I've woken up haunted by a memory, a face, a thought, a melody, a smell, that it takes me back to these moments in my life. Sometimes there's these beautiful moments where I'm a kid again and I'm laughing with my siblings, or I'm with my friends in the pool, or it's a taste that takes me back to a holiday. Sometimes it's a smell, and that smell will drive me crazy until I'm like, oh yes, it's from the person I used to love, and I thought there would be a future there. Sometimes it's a song that just, I don't know about you guys, but when I listen to music, I get chills. I'm like, ooh, that song gets me going. And there are a lot of songs and musics that I've picked throughout the years that have really spoken to my heart, that really spoken to what I love to do. But whenever it comes up, it reminds me of beautiful memories now instead of traumatic ones. Now, there is not a process to get to this idea of I'm able to let things go. I'm able to do what I can do. Oh my gosh, No, it's none of that. But it is learning how to be graceful in who you give grace to, how to give grace to yourself, but also I think it's rooted in forgiveness. My gente, my people, my brothers, my sisters, my friends, sometimes we have to forgive ourselves first when it comes to letting go of things that haunt us, to things that defined us for a long time. I used to think very horrible things about myself, and I mean, I'm not going to go into that because it's not anything that anyone needs to know at this moment in my lifetime. But there were moments where, I learned to adapt. And the adaptation I made for myself was to be alone. I was going to be alone. I am meant to be alone. This ideology that, well, even though I come from a big family, I love my family, but my punishment for the crimes or the traumas or whatever it is I'm supposed to be alone because whatever I do, it's this or that, and so on and so forth. And at some point, I had to sit myself down. I had to be honest with myself. And I had to tell myself, no, that's not true. That's not the truth of the story. That's not the truth of what it is. I have to let go of that presumption of my life. Because what ends up happening is, especially with my mind, it stopped me from living. It stopped me from dreaming. It stopped me from going up to, I don't know, a random stranger who, let's say, I find gorgeous and be like, hi, I'm Jacob. Nice to meet you. Or it stopped me from pursuing friendships who, yes, let's go do this. Yes, oh, no, I'm busy. Oh, no, this, or no, that. It stopped me. But when I learned to let go of this presumption that I'm meant to be alone, oh my gosh, it was a battle. It's not like, well, when to sleep, I'm not going to be alone. Woke next morning, I'm not going to be alone. No, it was a constant reminder to myself. And if you don't know, I work in an amazing office at this church, and I have an image of my friends. We went on a retreat recently. It was very beautiful, very powerful, very fruitful. I like to say that the fruits of that retreat have been very beautiful in my life. And I really can't tell you how gracious I am to have been able to do that. But I have a picture of my friends there. And whenever I look at it, I'm like, yes, Jacob, you are not alone. Look at your friends. But also at the same time, I have pictures of saints, and I have pictures of Mother Mary, and I have pictures of Saint Joseph, and I have little Lego figures and a bunch of things that remind me of the joy of being in community, but also letting go of this false narrative of my life. Now, there's more other things to let go of. The easiest thing to let go sometimes, the idea is to forgive and forget. That's an idea of letting go. Sometimes we have to let go of people. When I first, and well, I'm going to go into it because I think this is the great moment to go into it. And you'll learn a little bit about my zesty past. It's not really zesty. It's more of like, okay, we have to like make peace with who we are. But give me a minute. I'm going to take a sip of this coffee. I'll be right back with you. Oh, this coffee's hitting. Ooh, boy, that coffee is hitting. Ooh, I don't know about you guys, but maybe my addiction's coffee right now, and that's okay. I mean, it may not be okay. But yeah, it's okay. But besides letting go of false narratives, we have to let go of people. And that sometimes can be really hard. So, when I first moved to Florida about 2 years ago, as an adult, I moved as a kid, and that's a whole other episode. But as an adult, oh look, it says I have to do my Saint Joseph consecration. Well, you know what? I'm gonna do it today, and it's gonna be great. But sorry, not the point of today's episode. Uh, when I first moved here, it was hard for me to make friends, but it was hard for me to put myself out there. But by the grace of the Lord and by me challenging myself, I started to do things, meet new people, make new friends. And I will say the first few friends I made were at a grief support group. Tragically, I was found out my father's father, Rafael Eduardo Guardado, was passing away of Parkinson's. He was in his last moments. Um, and I just needed some support. I needed another person there. I had my aunt with me, but she was a very busy, hardworking woman, so I didn't want to distress her. But also, at the same time, I was going to therapy, and it really helped. It really brought me where I needed to be. It made me realize, the narratives I put and how I changed that, but also it made me realize where I hold my trauma. For me, it's in my throat, and it's also in my heart and in my gut. It's interesting the way things work, right? And in my feet, but that's a different thing. But I made friends working at this amazing Starbucks location. I made friends. I started to connect and I started to dream, and I felt picked. I felt chosen. We were all young and naive in many ways. I was this boisterous, loud worker at Starbucks who was trying to connect with people. I used to ask the crowd when I used to do second bar two, any nepo babies in the crowd. Nothing against nepo babies because they're nepotism babies, but some of them are great artists and all that jazz. But I always wanted to pick their brain, how is your life? And if I could be a part of your life, just so I could analyze it and journal about it and be this is the life of blah 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 through the eyes of a hardworking person. Did it ever happen for me? Not yet, but we'll see what happens, right? But I made these friends, and for a minute, it was nice to have friendship. But having these friends led to a very toxic work environment, a very, well, let's just say it wasn't a good place to be. Um, but I thought, well, these are the people I like. They like me. At the same time, I was going to a grief support group. I was friends with a lot of older women, yeah, grandmothers and mothers who were kind and sweet, and it was nice to have that support. But at a certain point in this group chat for Starbucks, I'm airing out all the grief now, even though I won't give names. I realized I couldn't stay in this group chat. I couldn't stay with these people because they were bringing me down when I was trying to get up. They were bringing me down when I was trying to surpass myself. I didn't want to stay there. I had dreams, I had goals, I worked hard. And the last thing I remember, I realized working at Starbucks, I got partner of the quarter, right? That was one of my goals. I want to be partner of the quarter. I want to work hard. I want to show I'm working. So I'd show up extra early, not that I clock in early, and I have to stay extra. I stayed extra. I was what I would like to say, hard work hard, it will pay off. Now, it did pay off in some sense, and it also made me enjoy. I know how to make coffee now, and what makes good coffee is bad coffee. I'm not a snob. I love me a good cappuccino now and then. I'm a big fan of cold brew. I love cold brew. Any good cold recipes out there, hit me up. But I realized in this friend group, I had to let go. I had to let go of these people for my own mental, emotional, and spiritual state. They were all young people who I think we just fed off each other's negativity, and negativity brings more negativity, and then it breeds resentment, and then people were at people's necks, and then this and that, and I had to let go the first few people I've met here because I didn't want to stay there. I didn't want to stay in the muck. I wanted to surpass it. Now, as the years progressed, I do realize sometimes people leave because they use you, or people leave because you're no longer of use to them, or you leave because sometimes you don't want to be there. And whenever you give them a quick critique of, maybe we shouldn't do this, and they make fun of you, and, sometimes you get it, but at a certain point I said, no, I don't think I can do this anymore. You know, and at the same time, my life was changing for the better. I was working at Walmart at the same time, and I always tell people at Walmart I was hired to sing. People say I have a great singing voice. I'm average. I learned with my sister. Shout out to Elizabeth Martin out there. Heads up, she's had a baby boy. His name's Basilio Martin. I'm just gonna call him Baby Basil. I'm buying him a basil plant. But he's a good kid. and my sister loves. She was here for a hot minute too, and I don't know where I'm going with this subject, but what I'm trying to say is this idea of letting go, this feeling of letting go, I don't know about you and wherever you are in your journey in your life, but sometimes we have to sit down and see sometimes what we have to let go of. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's an idea, maybe it's a dream. I can't tell you how many people I've met who've given up on their dreams, but what came after was 1,000 times more than what they wanted. Right now, I'm a young single Catholic man. Now you hear that, you would think, well, Jacob, I've been told by every which person you should be a priest. Don't get me wrong, I would love to be a priest. If that's the plan, the vocation the Lord has made, I have offered him prayers, I have offered him fasting, I have offered him things. But at the same time, to be a priest, I have to let go of dreams I've had since I was a child. I've always wanted to be a father in the sense of kids. I always wanted to be married. I've prayed for a wife since I was 5. And the funny thing is, maybe my wife will be the church. Maybe it'll be a beautiful woman. But I know what stopped me from pursuing both has been such a fear of myself. I have all these amazing gifts the Lord's given me, but I have to let go of this fear. The Lord says don't be afraid so many times in the Bible, but I know fear stops me. Doing this podcast is way of for me conquering my fears and putting myself out there with a veil per se. But it's sometimes hard for me to connect with people one-on-one. And I feel that I'm very superficial because I love the nitty gritty. I love to go like, well, what makes you work? What's your dream? What's your like magnus opus? I want to know everything about you. And some people are like, whoa, hold the roll speed right. So you gotta roll it back, 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 roll it back. I'm like, okay, my bad, my bad. There was a time I texted a girl. I went down that road. It did not go well at all. But the journeys of my dating life, there's not many stories there, but there's a few. But letting go of those notions, if I let go of one dream to embrace the other, is that enough? And it sometimes is. But sometimes we have to let go of our family in many ways. We have to let go of resentment, grief. Grief will never let you go in many ways, but you can learn to manage it. Anger is one of those emotions where you have to ask yourself, what are you angry about? Are you angry with yourself? Are you angry with the person? Are you angry with the situation? What are you angry with? And I'm always said there's righteous anger where you are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to scream bloody murder to people. You are. I honestly believe you can do that. But be kind. When it starts to hurt people, when it starts to cause people to do crazy things, your anger is not valid. Righteous anger is standing up for justice, standing up for love, standing up against corruption, amongst a lot of things. But that's a whole other subject for a whole other episode. Sometimes we have to let go of ourselves. Sometimes we hold on to a certain part of ourselves because we're afraid that if we let go of it, everything we've gone through was for nothing. Everything we endured was for nothing. And it wasn't for nothing. But the last thing you have to do is make peace with yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I cannot hold on to this pain anymore. My sadness has only caused me to lose myself. I have to let you go. Now there might be some internal conflict. You might feel, oh my gosh, the way the world, but it's a liberation, prayers of liberation, prayers of joyfulness, prayers of ecstasy in some sense. And letting go is hard in many ways, but something I've learned in my lifetime is that you have to keep going. You have to keep striving. You have to keep, you know, letting go of things that no longer serve you. And it's hard. It's not easy. I think I may say, oh, it's Jacob, it must be easy. No, it's sometimes one of the bravest things to do is let go of people who have hurt you really deeply, because you know that if you stay there, you might end up becoming like them and you don't want to be like them. And the sucky part is that it's going to hurt for a little bit, but the graces you get from that will be peace and joy and love because of the wisdom that you were granted, the knowledge you gained, the counsel you were given or you gave, the piety you received, the fortitude to endure, the fear of God that you want to be more, just in your words. It all comes back in a very beautiful way. I always said, well, if you love somebody, let them go. And if they come back, it was meant to be. I love romantic stories. I love that all. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I do know any love you do give never goes wasted. And it sucks. But the truth is, any love you gave to the people never was wasted. In some sense, maybe those words would help them in the long run. In other sense, maybe those words fall on deaf ears. But all the love we gave never goes wasted. And letting go is just one of those processes we have to do to understand that we aren't in control of everything. It's a serenity prayer. Something I learned when working with addicts and all that stuff is a serenity prayer. And it's very beautiful. And it's something where, I pray it now and then just so I can, sometimes remind myself of who I am and just, again, it begins it's a prayer of liberation. And it's basically, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I can't tell you how powerful that prayer is when you are letting things go. Lord, what can I control? Yes. What can I control? Yes. Okay. Well, how do I differentiate? Can you control yourself? Yes. Can you control how you respond? Yes. Can you control how the person responds? No. Can you control how people respond? No. Can you control how you take things in? Yes. Can you control your actions? Yes. Can you control your emotions? Yes. Can you control anybody else's emotions? No. Even though we want to really bad to do it, we can't. We can't control the world. The world is not ours to have, to control. But also, the identities you're given, you're not in full control of it. You can be the most upstanding, well-rounded human being in the world, and people will still think you are not enough. Well, I'm here to tell you, you are enough. In my next episode, we talk about being enough, because I know what it is to be not enough. My gente, my people, I don't know what struggles you are going through right now. I don't know what pain, grief, sorrows you're holding on to. But if you're going through a moment of joy, glory be to God. Hallelujah. These are moments where I'm like, yes. But even if you're not going through a good moment, endure. The gift of fortitude is yours to have. And glory be to God that you have trials and tribulations. Because I know that in the end of those trials and tribulations, you will be better. And maybe going through those trials and tribulations, you are letting go of things from your past. You are evolving to a better version. You are being, what is it called? Baptized by fire, where the past you was like, and you're being detached from it. And it's liberating. It just is. But it's hard. And I'm with you. Wherever you are in this world, if you're listening to this in your car, at home, at work, maybe you're just floating around Spotify. What does this guy have to say? I got a lot to say, but all I know is that I'm happy you're here. And I'm happy you're alive. Let's go of the things that no longer serve us. And let's embrace the things that do. Alright. I'll catch you on the next episode. Take care of yourself now. This has been Café con Jacob.